Welcome everybody to Rich Politics, the first ever episode of a brand new broadcast that I'm hoping to bring to you on a weekly basis. And the reason for this is I've been encouraged by a friend of mine who said, Rich, you need to be sharing some of your thoughts, some of your political views on an online platform, which I do through social media, through Twitter. You can follow me on RW Taylors and through our Facebook page. But here I am, YouTubing. So I'd ask if you'd be so kind as to subscribe and share the broadcast, and let's get people onto here so they can hear my views on a weekly basis on politics, in particular here in Wales, and of course my thoughts on UK politics also. I thought the best place to start would be to introduce myself. Some of you may know me, some of you may not, most of you don't. My name is Richard Taylor. I grew up in a working class family in a place called Senedd. Growing up was very tough. We were in foster care, went through many different institutions, became a very troubled teen. In fact, it's all well documented in my own biography called To Catch a Thief. So if you want to know more, go on Amazon, buy the book. All you need to know is in there. In other words, I've got a past, I've got a story. Well, how did I get involved in politics and why? Well, let me answer the why first. I think for many, many years growing up in a working class family in Llanelli, most of my father certainly and his father and the father before him were Labour supporters, lifelong Labour supporters. We were of the opinion that Labour were there for the people. They were the party that represented the people and cared about us. The reality is, over the years that I grew up, I became estranged from politics, didn't know much about politics because it never really played a direct impact into our lives as a family. And so I saw politicians as these posh people from Oxford and Cambridge who couldn't give a monkeys about ordinary people like me and like some of you watching the broadcast. And so I decided that politicians were a bunch of losers and a waste of time. So I never got involved in politics at all. In fact, I grew to hate politicians. The silver-tongued speakers that would come on our screens and tell us how wonderful they're going to do things for our country. And yet all I saw in my own family was poverty, poverty, poverty. And so as a result of that, growing up, I became very angry towards the establishment, towards politicians and people in places of authority. Became a bit of a runaway, bit of a renegade in my younger years. But then life began to take a different toll. I got married, I have 5 beautiful children, married my wife back in 1998, and we're still married. Been through some challenging times, but we're still together. Which they say, the success to a long-term relationship is go out for a romantic meal twice a week. She goes on a Thursday, I go on a Friday. Work wonders for our marriage. No, but the truth is this. I began to get involved in politics really early on in the last few years, really, because I was watching things on the news, BBC, Sky News, that really troubled me. And it was a lot to do with the Brexit result, the referendum when we voted to leave the European Union. Many of you know 17.4 million was voted to leave. Here in Wales, it was we voted to leave as well. And I just saw politicians standing up in Parliament, and of course down here in Cardiff Bay, in the Senedd, deliberately, willfully going against the biggest democratic vote in our history. We called them Remainers. I was classed as a Leaver. And there are a whole number of reasons, which I'm not going to do on this podcast, why I felt it was right for us to leave the European Union, having looked at it and thought about it, read about it. But what really struck me was this, that politicians in a democratic society like ours somehow have the ability to block our democratic vote, which people gave their lives for and fought for in past wars. And so why are these people called politicians being allowed to do this? And I got very angry. And at the time I got so angry that I was shouting at Question Time, the programme where politicians sit on the panel with some other experts and you tend to turn into an expert yourself, that kind of show. And I got really annoyed that there was only a few dissenting voices when it came to, getting Brexit done and getting us out of the EU, and the Conservative Party under Theresa May at the time were kind of flip-flopping over everything. She was very poor on the negotiations with the EU. It wasn't really Brexit, it was Brexit in name only. And it really frustrated me. And then I got invited to a rally in Merthyr Tydfil, here in Wales. And Nigel Farage was one of the speakers there, along with another range of speakers as well. And I was really struck by the crowd that was there and by the passion of the people who felt that their democracy was under threat. And that this party, this movement at the time, was there to establish a party, a pressure on the Conservative government, firstly to make sure Brexit gets done, but also to stand in the election. So the reason why I got involved in politics was simple. I hated politicians. So the irony of all this is now I'm engaged in politics and I'm classed in some quarters as a kind of a political figure, although not being elected. But I do believe that I have a part to play in the field of politics. And so my kind of route into it has been very different from a lot of people. My background, troubled teenager, working class family, foster care, witnessed all kinds of domestic abuse, been through the system, come out of it, turned my life around, went to rehab as well, had addiction problems, overcame them. And as a result of me coming through all of this stuff, my life began to take on a different shape, different meaning. I got socially involved in the community that I lived in, or where I have lived. I've lived in Birmingham and, of course, currently living in Wales, where I've been for a very long time. And I began to work with people who were vulnerable, people who had no hope, people who were destitute for prison all their lives and drug addicts. And I began to realize that these people were not just criminals or addicts, but they were people who needed help. So my wife and myself, we've over many, many years have helped countless numbers of people to overcome their addictions, to turn their lives around, and many of them now are happily married in full-time employment, back in university, they're doing well. And so I got a lot to be thankful for. Doing all this social activism, I was involved in my local rugby club, played rugby for Blaenau for 3 seasons, and coached at Aberdeen Excelsiors, a local team here, and involved in another football club here in Nantiglow in my constituency of Blaenau Gwent. But the point is this: I've always been involved in helping people within the community. And I always thought that was the job of a politician, because they're paid to do it. But they weren't doing it. And so I began to get involved in helping people because I'm passionate about it and I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing others succeed. And so the whole politician thing came about, I suppose, because I felt as if I could make a difference. To have somebody like me in Westminster, or somebody that has not come from, the Oxford or Cambridge elite, or from some kind of, privatised school or whatever it is. I'm just a regular working class guy. To give those people a voice in the places like Parliament and House of Commons, I thought it would have been a good thing. And so I decided to stand as a candidate for the Brexit Party here in Blaenau Gwent, my constituency. And we did okay. We came second. We did all right. Labour have held a seat for a very long time, a very large majority. And it was really that's what got me. It made me realise that there's much more to do. There's a fight on. So that's why I got involved with politics, because I saw the injustices. I saw politicians who were talking the talk but not walking the walk, and I seen them profiting off the backs of the people that they were elected to serve. And so I decided that I would get involved in politics. And so it's been an absolute crazy ride, going from not really knowing anything about different political views or all this kind of language that they use within the political arena. Then all of a sudden on television, on Sharp End, on BBC and ITV, debating with politicians who are now in Westminster. I found myself sitting debating with politicians. And I thought, I got something to say. And so I thought, my voice needs to be heard. People need to, because I want to speak up for the people. I want to represent the people that don't feel they have a voice. I want to represent those people. And so that's what I've been doing since the general election in 2019. In fact, prior to that, in November 2019, I embarked upon this journey, and I find myself now in a place where I'm excited about trying to make a difference in the lives of ordinary people like you and I and many others that I call friends. And so that's why I got involved in politics. Wasn't for financial gain. It wasn't because I'm not making any money. It's not for a career. I don't see politics as a career. I know there are a lot of people that I speak to, a lot of people that I interact with within the political world. They do see it as a career. I got to be quite frank with you. I really don't see it as a career. If it was a career, it wouldn't be one of my choices. But it's something that I feel passionate about, because I believe in giving working class people like myself a voice. The people who don't get involved in politics because they think there's no point getting involved with politicians because they don't care. Well, I believe that we should care, that we should get involved, that we should have a voice. And so I'm going to try and do all I can to represent those people. Here in Wales, we've got the elections coming up in May next year. Probably going to talk to you about that in another episode. But I just wanted to use this first episode, this broadcast, to say, welcome to Rich Politics. Please subscribe. There's going to be some exciting things coming up. I'm going to be sharing a lot of my views politically, not that necessarily of my party, but that of what I believe is going on here in Wales and the failures that I've seen with our Welsh government and, of course, with the UK government. I'm going to be sharing a lot of things, and I'm sure you'll find provocative and very interesting. So I'm hoping you can tune into the next broadcast. This is the first one, so it's raw, it's unedited, it's just me in my house, in my home, just with my iPad. That is it, sharing with you why I got involved in politics and how I got involved in politics and what I'm going to be doing in the future. Find out more next